Welcome everybody. We're excited that you're here. I'm Dr. Brett Brimhall. I practice here in the Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a chiropractor. You are here because somebody invited you. We call this Wellness Wednesday. There's a group of us that belong to a company called LifeVantage, and with a huge focus on helping people be able to not only get well, stay well, and learn really how that process works. We're going to focus in on tonight what's called the microbiome. So we get to talk about the bowels and a little bit about poop. So it's actually a pretty exciting thing with what you're going to hear about tonight. So I'm going to share some slides with you guys, and then we'll get rolling. Okay, so here we go. Give me 1 second while I pull these up. And Eileen, if you'd give me a thumbs up if you can see it. We good? Can't really see your thumb actually.
Yes, we're good.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the microbiome may be something you have or have not heard about. I've been asking people actually all day as I've been working with them what it is. And so we're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, what damages it, what you need to do about it, and why it's so important that we learn to address this. For the last 25 years, I've trained physicians all over the world on health protocols my dad and I created, and the practitioners that we were around. And one of the foundational parts was always focused on healing the gut. And it's a big deal. So here's just some snippets of kind of a really high look what it is. There's actually more non-human cells than human cells, right? And they're actually calling the microbiome, they're actually calling it a actual new organ. And this biome or this environment, it literally protects us against germs. It helps us break down our food to help release energy, and it helps your body produce vitamins. And one of the phrases that caught my attention as I've been researching this, it says this: understanding the microbiome is as important as understanding the human genome. So kind of listen to that. So understanding the biome of your intestinal tract and your whole body is as important as understanding the genetic code in your body. That's what science is saying, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. So this is just a picture on the left-hand side that shows you all the different areas of your body that contains different bacterial species, right? Whether ear canal, in your sinus cavities, in your intestinal tract, everywhere in your body, inside and out, there's this microbiome. So it's the environment. Like, we don't think much about it when you walk outside, but there's a lot of things in our environment locally and also globally that allows the whole world to function as it is. And we also understand when you damage one part of the environment, it affects the other parts of the environment when you talk about your world. Well, the same thing is inside your physical world, right? And there's tons of articles looking specifically at all sorts of conditions. Like, this is just something I pulled up, science talking about gut microbes and cancer. Just to give you a reflection of how much this has changed, if you type in what's called PubMed.gov, which is the National Institutes of Health research site, where published research is and peer reviewed, what that means is super hard to get published there, and it has to be real science. You'll see this graph here at the bottom from 1956 to 2021. You can see as the bar goes up, almost zero studies on it, and literally in the last few years, the amount of studies that are being published on the microbiome, 80,000 almost studies published. But most of them you see have been in the last few years. I'm gonna just touch on a couple of them. So this is the first couple pages of that. And I'm gonna read through a couple of these. Talking about the gut microbiome and aging, talking about the microbiome and inflammation in the digestive tract, talking microbiome and talking about autism and mood disorders, the effects of antibiotics on the microbiome, healthy aging, microbiome in the pathogenesis of inflammatory bowel disease, autism. I have double up. How about that, guys? Watch my slides. As you go through these, you're going to find that they're really everything that we experience in life, good, bad, or indifferent, can be affected by the digestive tract and how healthy it is, and really the whole microbiome in of itself. So because it is that critical, what can we do about it, and what should we do about it? And so there's called the National Institutes of Environmental Health Sciences, and their focus is to study the microbiome to gain a better understanding of its complex relationship with the environment and how these interactions may contribute to human health and disease. And I want to focus on this health part because I really would rather be healthy than have to regain my health. All right. This knowledge could help us revolutionize the way new chemicals are tested for toxicities and design prevention and treatment strategies for diseases that have environmental causes. So if you live in the world, the environment is affecting you. If you don't, then I wouldn't listen. But every single one of us on the planet, health is being affected mostly in the negative because the environmental pollutants around us, and it's affected us drastically through this process of the microbiome. Here's the key things that this institute is studying in how it affects your body and the microbiome. Chronic stress, all right? And chronic is longer than a couple days. That's chronic stress. So stress to us in years past was a saber-toothed tiger jumps out from a cave and tries to chase you down. Once that tiger is gone, then the stress is gone. But in the day and age we live, we don't have a lot of saber-toothed tigers, but we have a constant bombardment of worries and concerns that creates the same chemical effect of stress in your body all the time. And what that leads to, and you look at what they're studying here, it triggers an immune response that causes things like colitis, digestive tract diseases, and inflammation of the colon, artificial sweeteners, and how that affects the microbiome that leads to inflammation. Okay. All these are a lot of animal studies, but if they're a mammal, they have similar digestive tracts, so it's going to translate just to you. High fat diets and how high fat diets affects the microbiome that leads to, check this out, weight gain and obesity. Cesarean sections, okay? And I love this, indicates the way a newborn enters the world by C-section or natural birth. What is eaten, formula or breast milk during the first 6 weeks of life may affect the type of microbes in the gut microbiome. So when we change nature, which is how the body normally enters the world, whether it's through a delivery process, through what we eat, it changes the environment of the digestive tract and the rest of your microbiome that affects your health. All right. Antimicrobials, okay, taking medications drastically affects the body's microbiome, which I love this part. Because of that, it affects the genes that relate to the stress response, antibiotic resistance, and heavy metal resistance. So messing up the environment of the microbiome makes it harder for us to handle stress, makes us more susceptible to antibiotic resistance, and we have a harder time getting rid of heavy metals. Crazy. Arsenic exposure changed the gut microbiome, right? So the environmental stressors that are around us, whether you see them or not, have a drastic impact on it. Pathogens, okay? Microbes that cause infection disease in oral mouthwash samples are associated with pancreatic cancers in humans, right? It wasn't even like it might, because tied in cancer, it had a tie into cancer. This one here is kind of interesting too. Changes were pronounced in male more mouth than female. So sometimes certain things like this agricultural insecticide has more effect upon the male microbiome than the female microbiome. Okay. And unfortunately, let's say you don't ever get any of these insecticides if you breathe, right? So this fun research found breathing this chemical, ultrafine particles, a component of air pollution, altered gut microbiome that changed lipid metabolism in mice, which led to arteriosclerosis or plaquing. All right. So what I really want everybody to gather from this is not to be overwhelmed. It's not like, oh my gosh, we have no hope for survival, right? What I want you to gather from this is that if you really haven't ever put some time and energy into studying the microbiome, you have a phenomenal opportunity to be able to what we call biohack or improve your body's function of your digestive system and other microbiome that can help you feel better today and allow your body to age gracefully tomorrow. Another study talking about Alzheimer's specifically and how it can affect even Alzheimer's disease. Like I thought the last line, all the results suggest that Alzheimer's disease may begin in the gut and is closely related to the imbalance of gut microbiota. Modulation of this microbiome through personalized diet, or beneficial microbiota, which is probiotics and prebiotics, will become a new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. So I want you guys everybody to just really think about this. So we now have a huge opportunity to do something every single day that can improve how we feel and how we function today and drastically impact your health for tomorrow. Here's another one I found super interesting, especially with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, guys, is that they're finding the microbiome, if it's not working right, your body can't break down estrogens, which can tie into how estrogen affects breast cancers. And again, this ties into cardiovascular disease and other things, but there's a huge, huge thing. So later on in the month, we're going to talk a little more specifically about that. I just wanted to kind of highlight of how important this is for everybody. So when you come back in the next few weeks, you can invite some of your friends and family that maybe have specific things that they need to address. This is another one on cancer. So I'm gonna kind of show this last slide because to me it really brought it all home. Restoring our correct and healthy microbiome automatically becomes one of the leading strategies in beating cancer. It's a new pillar of cancer healing, along with diet and nutrition, chemical cleansing, emotional cleanup, and oxygen. Right? That's by Dr. Keith Scott Mumby. So here's the nuts and bolts, guys, of what you can start doing today. Is that understanding that this environment of your digestive tract and the rest of the microbiome bacteria in your body, it's super critical and super important. All right. So there's things that are damaging it every single day, and there's some stuff you cannot control. Like you can't always control the air that you breathe 100%. Like we can't all live in Hawaii all the time. All right. We can't always control all the stressor, but we can control a lot of that. So what I want you to do is we're going to decrease the stressors where you can on your microbiome, and you're going to improve your body to be able to function like the way it should. All right. So here's some very simple steps. All right. So there are foods that will improve and allow your microbiome to function. So the simple way to put this is anytime you play with nature, you're likely to affect the balance of nature. All right. So you think about the food, the more food we can get in the state that they were actually made in, whether that's a fruit, a vegetable, right? The better the bacteria that will be there. Once you cook it, once you denature it, once you process it, once you add preservatives to it, that has a potential to affect its effectiveness. All right. So we want to get as much of what we eat in the most live, real state that we can. And then you want to give the body the right type of bacteria. Okay. So even, and you guys may have noticed this, is there's good bacteria that belong in your hands. And you probably noticed that some people are washing their hands a lot right now because of what's going on in the world. That messes up the balance of the skin that can turn into skin issues. So when you can take care of your hand and put the right things on those, it can drastically impact the health of your skin. All right. So keep that in mind. So when you're taking a lot of chemicals on there, it can damage that balance, whether that's skin care, whether that's hand care, whether that's hair care. All of that matters, right? Because all that gets into your tissues. When it comes to a diet, there are foods that I'm going to encourage you to start incorporating into your diet automatically. All right. So fermented foods. Now, for those guys that are on this, that does not include alcohol. Okay. Even though some of that's fermented. Okay. But fermented foods. So for instance, that's kefirs, that's sauerkraut. Those type of things actually have, like kimchi, those have a lot of what's called probiotics in them, which are the good bacteria that belong in your digestive tract. And their job is to break down things so your body can actually convert it into energy. And there's prebiotics. Prebiotics are the fibers that go along with that. All right. So you need those good fibers that allow the bacteria to live there and grow there, and also to scrape the colon line to get rid of this stuff. So you need good prebiotics. You need good probiotics. There's some great sources out there for ones you can take as well. I've taken pre and probiotics my whole life, really, both in my diet and through supplementation. Right? It's important that you get them somewhere. So if you're not getting most of your food, like 70% of your food's raw, guess what? You probably, based upon everything I've ever read, you need to actually get them in through some supplementation. So 70% of your food raw, otherwise you need to add in pre and probiotics. Super, super important. You can ask the person that invited you this call, maybe perhaps some of the ones that they might use, but that's super important because when any of you go to find, or for instance, if I'm going to go to a restaurant and I haven't been to this restaurant, I'm going to ask a friend, right? Because I want to make sure that, like, if I'm going to take my wife out to eat, last thing I want to do is like have a restaurant that's not good. And if I'm going to spend money, right? So when it's your supplements, it's no different. You need to make sure what you're getting is what you really want and will have the effectiveness. Because the most expensive supplement that you ever will buy is the one that doesn't work. It doesn't do what it's supposed to. All right. So when it comes to the supplements you take or the food you eat, like, I'd rather you eat higher quality food, take higher quality supplements than more of supplements that aren't as effective, because those supplements that maybe you've been taking, or even foods, like I personally, I don't want any food colorings in my food. Because remember, those colorings and dyes and preservatives allow it to sit on a shelf longer. But in order to do that, it has to stabilize the food, which means it stabilizes bacteria, which jacks with your microbiome. So if you're buying big bottles or boxes of any food, or even a supplement that sits on a shelf a long time, it is going to affect our microbiome. So it's super important to get as fresh and most natural state of anything you're utilizing, whether that's a fish oil, or whether that's a kefir, or whether that's a pre or probiotic, or a vitamin or mineral, or if that's a food. Okay, super, super critical. So what we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to kind of take topics down, and we're going to kind of chunk it down into more things that relate more specific to individuals. So you'll see that, and then we'll also have these recordings posted, because what we want to do is we want to take this concept that seems pretty vast and give you bite-sized things that we can all utilize to start making some changes in each of our families' lives, and bring some professionals on that this is kind of their focus. Because right now, being October, right, is, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. My mom passed away 12 years ago from cancer, not breast cancer, but cancer. And I've watched so many people over the years that maybe have lived through cancer, but they're still trying to get their life back. And so we want to give you some tools and strategies to learn how to rebuild your body from the inside out, right? And also those individuals that maybe you didn't have cancer, but I remember how that affected me from a stress perspective, and regaining my health as well into a higher state, going through that process. So just, invite your friends and family back that you find this might be beneficial for them, so we can become more healthy as a world right now to help each other out. So just look for that recording every Wednesday at the same time. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to stop the recording so you guys can maybe ask some specific questions that relate to you.